Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to my Facebook Live session. Glad to have you here with me. Today, we are going to talk about episode 4 of the my interpretation of the 7 habits of highly effective people. So, welcome to the episode 4 of my Facebook Live session series on my interpretation of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which was written by Stephen R. Covey. Thank you once again for joining today and your continued support, especially a day just after Diwali. For those of us, for those of who are joining us for the first time, you can see uh, uh, the previous videos in the video section of my page, and we would be doing a quick review at the beginning of today's episode also. However, before we go ahead, starting with a quick background on me. My name is Rashi Sinha and I'm a business consultant, coach, and trainer. I started my corporate journey 2 decades ago and over the years have worked with multiple organizations where revenue generation was a key highlight of my KRA. I have deep experience in launching new business verticals and product. Such a role helped me with the right exposure on business growth strategy and went on to become my core strength. The nature of my work made coaching and training an extension of my profile, and I soon realized that I'm a natural at being a coach and a trainer. Now, I work towards building growth for my clients and work with multiple mid sized businesses and startups to help them define and structure new revenue generating streams or help them tweak their current business working to create fast paced growth. To know more, you could head to my LinkedIn profile. Well, I believe that the book I'm going to speak about, which is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, uh, has a very deep impact on my personal life. You know, I think that this book has shaped my professional career to a great extent, and I have gone back to the book multiple times in the past, and each time I have had a new takeaway. Hence, I highly recommend that you make notes through the series and also read the book if you haven't already. In fact, I would suggest that it is a must have for your personal book collection. Once again, here is a quick look at the structure of the series. The series is spread over 9 episodes, and this is how it looks. We started with the introduction, then we have divided the habits into various episodes each week, and today we will be talking about habit number 3. Also, by end of each episode, there will be a take action point or a task to do which needs to be worked on before the next episode. Once again, I'd highly recommend that you sit with a pen and notebook to take notes and, if possible, maintain a journal about it. For those who are regular with the series, hope you did do the task of last week, which was to start writing your personal mission statement and list the things you would want people to remember you as. Here is what the index of the book look like. Today, like I mentioned earlier, we will talk about habit number 3, put first thing first, which is the third chapter under private victory section, and it is the final chapter of this section. Now, before we get started on the habit, here is a quick recap of what we have covered in the previous episodes. So, we started episode number 1 with the introduction to the book, talking about paradigm and principles, and understanding that paradigms can shift, principles are fixed, like integrity, sincerity are principles which are fixed, whereas paradigm is all about point of view and they can shift with time, because when we have a better view and a more holistic view of world, we have a different point of view. Then in episode number 2, we went on to talk about habit number 1, which is be proactive. And this is where we got introduced to the principles of personal vision. We understood stimulus and responses, and stimulus leads to responses, but it's all in our hand. We decide, it's a choice we make on how to respond. Then we moved and understood that responsibility is actually saying the ability to respond. And that is where we got introduced to the circle of concern and circle of influence. It is always suggested that we would be more productive and better at our work if we are working in the circle of influence and not concentrate on circle of concern, like economy or you know prices rising, uh, stock market going haywire, or what the neighbor is doing could be a circle of concern, but we do not have control over it. What we have control over is our circle of influence, like our own behavior, our goals, and our planning for our own life. So we need to work more towards circle of influence. And that is when we move to the next episode, which was episode number 3, and where we got introduced to habit number 2, begin with end in mind. And this is what is called the principles of personal leadership. We understood the difference between leadership and management, and that all things are created twice, first in our mind and then in action. We understood the example of an architect who, before making a building, makes a blueprint, which is, it creates the entire building on paper through the blueprint, which is creating it the first time. And the second time it is created is when the actual building is erected. And when you are doing that physical erection of the building is when you continue to go back to the blueprint to revisit it and ensure that you are on the right path. So that is what we understood, that all things are created twice. And that is where we moved towards building a personal mission statement and identifying our own center, which was that we all best is to work under the principle centered behavior. And we understood there are different kind of centers, which is like work center, spouse center, family center, even enemy center. And we need to understand which center we are operating from, and the best center to operate from is when we are principle centered. So that was a quick recap on what we did in the previous 3 episodes. Now, again, something before we get into the details of the habits, we need to understand that the 7 habits, the key word over here is habit. So what was habit? And I continue to revisit this particular part because it is very important to understand the definition of the habit, hence the revisit. The author in the book defines habit as it is an intersection of knowledge, skill, and desires. With the right habit, we learn to be productive and effective, and the right effectiveness is achieved by the support of those around us. This is the diagram which is set to understand how the habit pans out and create an impact. And then we come to this other diagram, which is actually setting up all the 7 habits for us. We humans by nature are interdependent. As an interdependent person, I have an opportunity to share myself deeply, meaningfully with others, and I have access to the vast resources and potential of other human beings. And these 7 habits, when worked on, make us truly interdependent. So now, with the habits, we will work on ourselves first. Again, if you look at the diagram on the right side, you'll see the first 3 habits are about private victory, where we are moving from being dependent to independent, and then we move to the next level. Today, we'll get introduced to habit number 3, put first thing first. In fact, I had maximum fun working on this habit, and believe me, this habit will make you work a lot if you are truly interested in making the impact change in your life. So just a small connector here. The habit one began with creating principles of personal vision. While working on these habits, we need to stand apart from ourselves. This means look at yourself as a separate person. I know it could be difficult for some, but then with the exercise and when we continue to do that, it will be easy. In habit two, we understand the principles of personal leadership. So we have principles of personal vision as habit one, then we have principles of personal leadership as habit two. Here, it is important to know that leadership and management are different. So leadership is what are the things I wish to accomplish, all right? And management is how can I best accomplish these things? Till we do not define what we want to achieve or where we want to go, management is of no use. So when we understand habit number two, that is where enters habit number three, where we will understand the principles of personal management. So habit number one said, you are the creator, right? So because it's about personal vision, so habit number one is you are the creator. Habit two is the first creation, the blueprint. And habit number three is management, which is the second creation, that is the physical creation of the blueprint we have made. I'm a big fan of the way this book is structured and how beautifully everything opens up, and how each habit is a seed or stepping stone to move ahead to the next habit. Like I said, habit three, that is put first thing first, is about second creation, which is the physical creation. This habit is all about independent will towards becoming principle centered. Now, before we move ahead, here are two questions for you. Do write down short answers of them at your end. So, question number one is, what one thing could you do? Something you aren't doing now. So, what one thing could you do that if you did on a regular basis would make a tremendous positive difference in your personal life? There would be a lot of things, what if, uh, happening in your life. So think about it. What is that one thing you could do that will make tremendous positive difference in your personal life if you do it on a regular basis? Now, question number two is, what one thing in your business or professional life would bring similar results? So in question number one, it is about your personal life. Now, same thing, ask the same question when you put in perspective either your business or professional life. We will discuss the answers to this later, or in fact, you would understand the answer much better as we get along. So with these questions set, let's get into to understand habit number three better, which is put first thing first. Now, like I mentioned, habit number three deals with principles of personal management. Management, as we discussed in the last episode, is different from leadership. Management is like finding your way through the jungle, whereas leadership is about ensuring that you are in the right jungle. When you're in the right jungle, it makes all the difference. When it is about managing yourself effectively, and this is what habit number three focuses on. So let me once again start the share. So yes. So I just mentioned this word in addition, uh, right at the beginning of the previous slide. So we have till now understood things about self-awareness, imagination, and consciousness. Now, this is the fourth human endowment called independent will. So we have self-awareness, imagination, consciousness, and independent will as the four human endowment. What does independent will mean? So it is the ability to make decisions and choices and to act in accordance with it. Well, it is the ability to act being the key word, and not to be acted upon. That is again to do with the circle of influence, which we have understood in the previous episodes, rather than circle of concern. So when we combine all the four human endowment, they really make effective self-management possible. Now, effective management is also putting first thing first. With leadership, we decided what are the first things. It is with management that we put them in the right order, beginning with what is the first thing to do. And we do that day by day, moment by moment. So management is the discipline of carrying the tasks. In other words, if you are an effective manager, one second. Yeah. So, in other words, if you are an effective manager of yourself, discipline comes from within, as discipline is the function of independent will. So, when we talk about management, discipline, the natural next thought is time management. So, of course, it is an important factor in life and also important as part of habit number 3. So let's understand time management better by looking at the 4 generations of time management. Now, isn't that interesting that I'm talking about 4 generations of time management, and there are a lot of levels, but this is what it is all about. And when we are able to understand these better, we understand the habits much better, and it becomes easier for us to imbibe them in our life. So these generations of time management are like stepping stone to other. We cultivate one, and that becomes the base for something better, and we then refine it further. We all, in various levels, work at the 4 generations of time management. So now, what are these? So we will have a look at them quickly. So when we talk about the 4 generations of time management, let's look at what the first generation is all about. So the first generation could be notes and checklist. We all have gone through this, where we write notes of all the things we need to do. We make checklist, the to-do list right in the morning. We try and incorporate everything that is on our plate. We want to cover everything, achieve everything. We want to make good of all the expectations somebody has towards us. So we write everything in notes, make checklist, and then as and when we are getting to do those tasks, we mark them. So that is the first level or the first generation of time management. Then we get to realize that probably we have bitten more than we can chew by making the checklist. And probably there are certain things which got left out. We covered something, or maybe something else could have been covered. And then there's confusion. And then we refine this. When we refine, we come to the second generation, and it could be characterized as using calendars and appointment books. So this is where we make an attempt to plan ahead and chalk the schedule in future. Make plans. So we have a checklist. I can't accomplish everything today. So then I need to see where I'm going to put that particular task over the week, over the month, or over the year, so that I schedule it and put it in my calendar and it's not missed out. So that is the second generation of time management, and this is how it works. Now, here comes the third generation, which reflects the various current time management fields. It's all about priority, setting goals, targets. It could be short-term targets, long-term targets. It also includes daily planning, making specific plans, long-term plans to accomplish those goals and activities we have set out to do. However, there is something which is amiss over here. When we make these tasks, when we plan all of this, what happens is we work towards efficiency, right? Because that's what we are trying to do, become more efficient, more productive as we think we would be. However, what is missing over here, and at times that creates a lot of confusion, that we are not leaving any space for possible newer opportunities. So in a way, we may have become more efficient with the system, but then it clashes with the possible future opportunities, and then it becomes all counterproductive. And when we are faced in such a situation, we get disengaged, and we tend to step away from any kind of scheduling and time management, because then it doesn't make sense beyond a point to us. We live in an ever changing world, and we need to realize that, and all our various management tools should help us in managing the changes we have in our life. And this is where the fourth generation of time management comes into focus. Here, it recognizes that time management actually is misleading. Absolutely, you heard that right. You cannot manage time. The word is misleading. The challenge is not about managing time. The challenge is about managing ourselves. So rather than focusing on things and time, the fourth generation expectation focuses on preserving and enhancing relationships, and the end result on accomplishing those results. And what is this fourth generation time management tool? So let's get introduced to that. The fourth generation of management can be captured in this particular setup, which we call the time management matrix. As per the matrix, we spend our time in one of the four ways. All our activities, whatever we do in our life, is defined by just two factors. Either they are urgent or they are important. So we decide on the various urgency level how urgent something is, or decide on how important something is. So when we talk about urgency, what does urgent mean? Urgent mean we need to act on it now. For example, picking up a ringing phone can be termed as urgent. It has to be done right now. Basically, urgent things act upon us. Many people don't realize that a ringing phone can be ignored, right? But then what we do in at times of even important meetings, meeting relatives, family, we tend to pick up our phone and get busy with that. It becomes urgent because a message has come, somebody has called, and we are okay to make the person wait, and we want to pick the phone. We need to decide on that. How urgent would that be? We need to think and change our mindset on that. Important things, on the other hand, are more to do with results, and they may not be immediately visible. They are something important that contributes to our aim, our values, etc. However, they may not be in our face. So now if we look at these four quadrants specifically, it is divided as, on the the y-axis we have important and not important. On the x-axis we have urgent, not urgent. So there are four sections where things are either important or urgent. They are important yet not urgent. They are not important but urgent. Then there are certain things which are not important and not urgent. And we need to decide where we are and what we want to do, what we want to work in and which quadrant we want to be in? Well, from the look of it, uh, it can be that there could be two quadrants or three quadrants which may seem important to everyone, and it's okay. Let's look at these quadrant in more detail. So let's go to quadrant number one. So quadrant number one, when we are talking about things which are urgent and important, we are actually working in crisis emergency situation. Now it could be a kitchen on fire, some very specific calls which you can't ignore. For example, if you work in an organization and your boss is calling you, then probably it's important and urgent for you to pick it up. At the same time, if you have a crying baby, that is important to attend to that baby, to understand what is the need the baby is looking at. So this is where quadrant one comes into play. Now we'll move to quadrant three, which is right below quadrant number one, where things are not important. However, they have become urgent for us. So these are somewhere called interruptions. When you are in the middle of doing something, some calls, you can't ignore them, but they're not important. So you have to pick them up. There could be some mails, some reports to be sent, even certain things where you have to do to look good. It could be also office gossip, because you need to know what is happening in the office, so it becomes urgent in your head, but it may not be important. So this is where uh, is people who operate in quadrant 3 are at, where the impact of quadrant 3 as far as result is concerned may not be higher, but these are activities, mundane tasks, sometimes you can't ignore and you have to indulge in them. So that is what quadrant 3 is all about. However, another thing to remember over here, the people who work in quadrant 3 are basically short-term focus, and they would move to crisis management situation very soon. These are people who see setting up goals and plans as worthless. They tend to feel victimized. They don't feel in control. Basically, they are not working in their circle of concern. They are not working in their circle of influence. They are more in the area of circle of concern. These are the times where people tend to have shallow or broken relationships, because we are concentrating a lot on the mundane things of life. Now we move to quadrant number 4, where things are not important, things are not urgent. These are time wasters, doing trivial stuff, the busybodies. You look busy, but you do nothing. So these two quadrants, which are quadrant number 3 and 4, where we are talking about distractions, interruptions, trivia, time wasters, where things are not important. Urgent or not urgent is a separate thing. Where things are not important actually pull down your effectiveness. And effective people tend to stay away from quadrant number 3 and 4, because these things are not important. Now, again, you need to try and shrink these quadrants to the minimum. Don't make your life about these quadrants. We understand that it is not possible to let go of everything under quadrant number 3 and 4. They do have their own subtle importance, but then let it remain subtle only. Don't make them the center of your life. What we need to do is, by shrinking all the other quadrants, is by we make quadrant number 2 bigger, and that is the ideal quadrant to be in. Yes, quadrant 2 is when we are working on all the important things of life, who or what are not urgent. This is where planning comes into picture. This is where prevention of self and your environment comes into picture. This is where you actually find the space to improve yourself. because this is where you work on improving yourself, doing better for yourself. So that is why it is important that we look at working more in a quadrant 2, because becoming a quadrant 2 focused person means you become a self manager. And if you want to become a self manager, how there are four key activities you can get involved in. Now, it's very interesting. Well, there are a lot of times when we discuss the quadrants, people come back with, I need to do that. Of course, does that mean I will not pick up the phone? Of course, you have to. But then you need to understand that it is not going to be a one day job. It will take its time and it's okay. It's about understanding the basics and the principles associated with working with this quadrant model of time management, and ensuring that we move towards quadrant 2 as fast as possible. Nothing happens overnight. So how can we do that? So it can be done by understanding these four key activities. Once you get these four activities right, you understand them better, you will automatically start moving towards quadrant 2 and operating in that area better. But before we move to the four key activities, understand another thing. Learn to say no. Lot of us tend to say yes to anything that is asked of us, and that may not be a very good thing to do. Always weigh everything in the area of concern and area of influence, keeping your goals and your self preservation in mind. And when we start doing that is when we realize that there are a lot of things which do not serve us. I'm not saying one should become selfish, but we should not be acted upon. That is what is important. So we need to ensure that we always exercise the choice, because choice is always with us, what we want to do or not do. So therefore it's important that we learn to exercise our choices, which would also mean that we need to learn to say no to certain things. So that is what is the base we need to understand, and this is how we can start moving towards the quadrant tool. So quadrant 2. So while we want to move towards quadrant 2 and become quadrant 2 focus, we need to understand certain key factors, because that is what will make us self managers. And those four key activities to understand is: number 1, identify your roles. Yes, I said it with an S. So understand your roles, write them down, because all of us are playing different roles in our life on a daily basis. Now, what are these different kind of roles? And that is what the author talks about, that you could and you can write them down separately also in two different ways. So he gives the example in the book in two different ways. One is a straightforward way, which could be the role I play as an individual for myself, then as a spouse or a parent or as a family person, the role I play as a manager in my organization or a business head, the role I play as the specific designation I have. I could be a person dealing with the launch of new products. I could be somebody working in the area of research. I could be somebody who is the chairman of the organization, right? Now, or I could be somebody who is the manager of the community service that is done. So these are the roles you can identify yourself with in terms of the actual role. Now, you could define the roles when it becomes result oriented. Now, instead of defining yourself as an individual with having a role to play with self, you could say the result oriented stuff, that I have a role related to personal development, right? Next could be you have a role of being a responsible parent or a supportive spouse. You could be in community service. You could be the director of defining the everyday life and ensuring bread in households by being the CEO of an organization. So these are the various ways you can identify with the roles that you have. So it could, while you're writing, it can further confuse you. So let's do one thing to make things simple. Take every day, by end of each day, write down the various roles you played that day, and let's do that only for 1 week. That would give you a very good idea how to go about that, because there could be certain roles in the longer scheme of things you could be playing, but you don't play that role on a day-to-day basis. When we are beginning to understand this habit better, let's take small steps to move into the quadrant 2 or expand our quadrant 2 by making it simple and not getting overwhelmed by it. So just let's take this week. So identify all the roles you will be playing in this week. And yes, in a way, this is parallelly also the activity for this particular episode. So please note down these things. So second key activity, after identifying, I wouldn't say after, but there are, like I said, there are 4 key activities. So I'm just sharing one after the other. There is no sequence to it. So identify the roles. Second is selecting goals. Think about 1 or 2 important results which you think you should accomplish in each of these roles during the next 7 days. So once you have identified the role, again, not talking long term, what can you accomplish in a week's time in each of these roles? So then that becomes your various goals for these roles. So at a personal level, what is the goal you want to take for self? As a spouse or as a family person, what is that one goal you would like to accomplish within this week? So that is what is selecting results. It is important that you become result oriented, because that is what you need to look at, that what is the result you want to accomplish with each of this goal. So that is why it's important that we keep it short for this week only to practice and become better at it. The third activity is scheduling. Look at this week ahead. With your goals in mind, schedule time to achieve them. Now, you could have taken a goal of, like in previous episode, we were talking about having a personal mission statement. And like I mentioned, it is not something you can do within a day. You need to read up, you need to plan for it. So when you're planning for personal mission statement, your goal could be preparing a rough draft of your personal mission statement in this week. Or if you're looking to become physically fit, you could actually look at a goal of finding a center through which you would work on your physical fitness. That could be a yoga center, it could be a health center, it could be nutrition, it could be a gym, whatever works for you. So this is how you work at the goal. The result would be, by the end of the week, you would have found that gym or that yoga center, spoken to them, understood the costing, and probably signed up for it. So your result is signing up for a fitness center. That is how you set your goal, and this is how you do the scheduling, in the sense that you reverse work on it. Say if by Saturday I need to ensure that I sign up on the gym, probably today is the day I need to start looking up the various gyms in my area, or speak to people. My neighbor is physically fit, I know he goes for physical exercise every day to his gym, probably I could ask him. Then make those phone calls, understand the packages, so that you can do schedule it over the next week, and by Saturday come to the conclusion, and the result is sign up for that particular gym membership. So we identified the roles, we selected the goals which were result oriented, then on those goals we did the scheduling for the week. Now comes the fourth part, is daily adapting. So this was an exercise we did for 1 week. We don't have to forget it after 1 week. So we need to keep coming back to it time and time again. So that is what is daily adapting to it. Make it a habit to continue to do that initially for 1 week. Once you have succeeded, try and make it for 1 month, and so on and so forth. This is how you work on the daily adapting of the things. You would realize that sometimes you have made your schedule extremely tight, and there is no space for some unanticipated, unscheduled activities. So then you would start improving your scheduling as for that. Each morning, take few minutes to review your schedule of what was planned, what you have achieved, and what you need to do. Then with time, make it a regular day-to-day rolling habit. If you are confident enough, make it for more number of days. And then, like I was explaining the 3 generations of time management, in the 4th generation also, you would start refining yourself and making things better for yourself. So yes, this involves a lot of work, but then, like we understood the definition of habit, desire is an important factor of it. So have that desire and take action. Just the knowledge is not enough to build a habit. I am, through this particular series, giving you the knowledge, but to act on it and to have the desire to work on it is completely in your hands. That is not in my circle of influence, it is in yours. So when all 3 get combined, that is when a new habit is formed. So keep that in mind. So do these activities and ensure that you plan these 4 activities in a manner, and every time when you work towards something or you do a task, ask yourself, is it urgent? Is it important? If not, can it be rescheduled? Probably you could make a list of things which fall in this category: urgent, non-urgent, important, non-important. That will give you a better sense on which quadrant you are in case you don't know. And I'll quickly take you through the 4 quadrants once again. Quadrant 1 is when you are always in crisis and emergencies. That is, everything seems important and urgent. If you continue to work in this area, there is a high probability that you will collapse, because then you are increasing quadrant 1 and there's only so much one can handle, and this will not help you grow, it will not take you ahead. So it's important that we move out of this particular quadrant and do not work as the in this quadrant as a dominant quadrant. Yes, we cannot rule out situations where something can be both urgent and important, but it should be far and very rare, should not be a day-to-day operation. Then we spoke about quadrant 3 and 4, which is not important activity, either urgent or not urgent. These are basically time wasters and distractions. So best is to avoid that. If you want to be an effective person, have efficiency, these are the 2 quadrants which are to be avoided the maximum. Have minimum presence of them in your life. And the best quadrant to work in is quadrant number 2, where you do all the important activities and ensure that they are done when they are not urgent. For example, even exercise or uh, dietary control can move into important and urgent category if you are diagnosed with a life-threatening disease. So why let that situation happen? Instead, start taking care of all the important things starting from today when they are not urgent. Now, when you would be creating the chart, like we discussed, using the 4 key elements, your week could look something like this. Yes, on the look of it, it can look overwhelming, but if you look at the things more closely, you will understand that we are talking about the various roles we play, and based on those roles, there are activities or tasks which have been picked up for that particular week. For example, in parenting, time with kids, kids' health, visit grandparents are the tasks which have been picked up by the parent. And then those 3 tasks are divided or scheduled through the week so that it can be taken care of and is not missed. Similarly, when it comes to, say, our passion project, there is write blog post and do research. So of course you need to do certain research to be able to write the blog and be factually correct. So that is what you do, is you divide your time of doing the research and actually writing the project. Like you can see, there are certain areas where it is clearly mentioned, and passion project is not a daily activity as planned in the graph. So these are the various things which you could do to plan better, work with habit number 3, which is put first thing first, and work towards a more organized life. Remember, it's not about time management, it is about self management, because time is a constant. We cannot manage time because that goes in our area or circle of concern. However, what we can manage is ourselves, because that is in our circle of influence. So let's work on ourselves to ensure that we complete all our work and tasks in a more better and planned manner. Also, take away and remove the tasks which do not serve any purpose to us. Because when we do that, when we learn to say no, we are doing a big service to ourselves. I am sure you will have some questions. So once again, here are my contact details. You could reach out to me at Rashi, RASHIE dot Sinha, SINHA at gmail.com, or Rashi, RASHIE at theyellowcarcompany.com, and share any concerns, doubts you have. In fact, I have received few very interesting questions about the habits, and I will be taking them up in the next episode. Right at the beginning, after the recap, we will first take up at least 3 questions which I've received, which are generic in nature, and it could benefit a lot of other people too. So I will be taking those questions up right at the beginning of the next episode. In the meanwhile, do not forget to do the 4 key activities we spoke about, which is about identifying the various roles you have, selecting the goals based on those roles, scheduling them for the week, and then working towards the daily adapting of those activities. So that's it from me for now for this week. We will meet again next week, next Sunday, which is on 22nd November, same time, 3:30 p.m., where we will talk about habit number 4, which is think win-win. This is one of my most favorite habit, and what excites me more is that we will now be moving from the private victory to public victory, what we can accomplish together as a group. So that is what excites me even more. So see you next week. Have a wonderful Sunday and enjoy the week ahead with habit number 3. Thank you.